Thanks for joining me for the Pray for Micah podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review, and check out my YouTube channel and follow me on social media. Pray for Micah Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And now, on with the show.
Welcome to the Pray for Micah podcast. And now your host, Micah Chrisman.
Welcome to the Pray for Micah podcast, where we explore art, activism, spirituality, and our cosmic insignificance/significance. I have the honor and privilege today to host my very own kin, my blood, Caleb Chrisman, brother Caleb.
Yeah, that's me.
Not in the pastoral sense, just literally my brother. So yeah, if anyone's wondering why we kind of look like twins, but not, it's because he went to prison looking like me and then lost a bunch of weight. So I'll never forgive him for that.
It's all good. We got time. We'll get you there.
Yeah, well, get me there. Yeah, he's already been teaching me some workout routines so I can catch up to his level. But
you're good where you're at, brother.
Brother, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, man.
How you been?
I'm blessed, brother. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. We got a hookah going. So for those who are on the YouTube channel and you're wondering what the bubbly weird sound is, just know it's all safe. Mom and Dad, we want it's
no
just
drugs,
hookah.
no drugs.
We got to keep
sober living, bro.
Got to keep the good vibes going with that probation,
Parole, but same
parole.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. It's gonna be an easy conversation because I know you, but the rest of the world may not know you like I do. So I'm like, and I approached him. I was like, hey, it's been 5 months since you've been out, and I kind of treat this podcast kind of like my own personal journal anyways. It's just fun to look back and see conversations that I've had with people and what those conversations taught me. And so the goal was like, hey, let's record one together now, kind of in your early release of your parole. And then do another part 2 later on down the road, maybe after a year, and just
make sure I'm still alive. Yeah,
make sure you're still alive. Make sure you're staying out of trouble. Oh man. Well, brother, why don't you tell folks what's been new with being out for 5 months? So go ahead. We'll jump into all the backstory of like where you've been for the last 7.5 years and what led you there. But what's it been like being a free man for 5 months?
The best way I can describe it is every day feels like a gift. Every morning I wake up, and even in the times like when I don't want to go to work or I don't feel like I'm feeling negative about something or down about something, I just have to like mentally kick myself in the head and be like, dude, look around, like you're blessed.
Yeah.
And then I just try to live that blessing to the best I can for the day. And I just take every day as that in and of itself, like a freedom trip. Like every day is its own journey, and sometimes we lose sight of the blessings. I'm just blessed to be able to have that experience to ground myself to the blessing of the current moment, just to ground myself. Like, no, dude, like you might be feeling dissatisfied or stressed or not feeling like you're where you want to be currently right now. But then it's like, oh, wait, dude, 5 months ago, you were sleeping on a cement slab. Like, you're cool, bro. Like, you got a bed. Like, you're all right, bro. Like, you can drink water without black mold. You're living. You're good, bro. Like, just be free.
There's got to be a little less stress. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit,
But in some ways, I can see how getting in from the outside, how life on the outside has a whole new level of stress. It's not that it's less significant, it's probably less life-threatening.
Yeah. Unless you're driving by a semi-truck. Those guys are pretty, menacing.
Yeah, right.
You're like driving by a semi-truck, you're like, oh, man.
You're like, I haven't driven by these in a while.
Yeah, don't run over me, big guy. Like, I'm just trying to, just let me scoot on by over you, right behind you,
Yeah, I remember like the 2 days after Caleb got out, I decided to take him to the city to go do volunteer work and do food rescue. And it was overwhelming. You were just like, oh my God, there's so much city.
I was like, let me look at my phone. Like this is like in the palm of my hand. This is controllable. Let me just look at
There's
this.
a lot of sky around me. There's a lot of
there's buildings and people shouting. And then on top of that, your trunk flies open and the food flies all over down Main Street.
So yeah, we were doing food rescue for Cherith Brook Catholic Worker, and so he went to go help me pick up the food donation, and my latch on my car doesn't always work on the hatchback. And we like punched the gas and started to leave going up, and then the back flies open, all these tomatoes start rolling everywhere. And
I'm like in the middle of the street, like trying to pick.
Like 2 days after he's been out of prison, and he's
on
out
Main Street.
On Main Street in Kansas City,
just staring at me, and I'm like, just throw this, don't mind me. Like,
it looked like a bloodbath. All the tomatoes getting smashed, and everybody driving over everything. And we survived it, though. You know, I break you into the free life. Yeah, pretty good.
Sink or swim, go.
Sink or swim.
Get ran over on Main Street.
Right, man. I've got to go ahead and tell the other funny story of the Which day one? You were released.
Oh, yeah.
So our whole family decided we were going to surprise my brother, and we were going to get all the family, like minus the sisters and siblings who live in Russia. Yeah. They're missionaries there. And so our family, though, from Colorado came, and so did our family here in Kansas City. And we met at a bed and breakfast over in Kansas, and we stayed the night before. So Caleb thought it was just going to be me and my parents picking him up.
Right.
And so the next morning, it was just chaos. We're like, we have to be there at like 8:30, and we're trying to like wrangle everybody up and put them in the cars, and it was just chaos. It was like 3 vehicles, like 20 people, because my sisters have like 1 million kids, niece and nephews, and we go to the prison, and we go to the place where we normally go to visit my brother, like the visitor center.
At the actual prison section.
And they're like, no, you need to go over here. And so naturally, Dad's like, well, let's drive to the next building.
Just beside this one. And there's like 7 buildings over there, so it's like super confusing.
And we were just driving from building to next building, and the security guards finally were just like, you need to go take a left, and you needed to go up this way and park in this parking lot.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, go ahead and share what was, from your perspective, happening.
So, from my perspective, it's like, it's unsurreal. It's like that moment when you wake up on Christmas morning when you're a little kid, and you're about to wake up and you're about to experience the most amazing day with, your presents. And us as kids, we already knew what kind of toys we were going to get because we didn't believe in Santa Claus. So, we just like, yes, I finally get to open up my present that I already pretty much helped Mom package like a couple weeks prior.
Help wrap it.
Yeah. And then, of course, Mom threw like a couple of surprise presents in there. But anyways, I digress. But anyways, I wake up and I go to the prison, and I'm saying goodbye to, all my friends, and everyone's just, it was very emotional. It was very unsurreal. I didn't feel like I'd been in a dream state for almost 2 weeks leading up to where it didn't even feel like it was happening. Like I was just walking like a ghost down a hallway. It wasn't reality to me. And so I wake up the next morning, I'm like, I had this thought in my head, like putting on normal human clothing. And my parents, I had them send me up an outfit of clothes. So I'm getting dressed, and it's like the first time I put a pair of socks on that didn't hurt your feet because like the seam going across it.
Because we sent you clothes beforehand
right.
that you could wear on the way out.
Yeah. So I put all my clothes on. I'm like, wow, this is what it looks like to be normal. Okay, cool. And so like, I get my box of all my poetry and journals because that's really all and then like some of like the cool arts and crafts and stuff. That's all I really took home with me, and then my sweats, and then everything else I gave away. And so I got this big box of journals, and I got like 30 freaking journals in this box, and I'm like, all right, you're good to go. They're supposed to be coming to pick you up. They should be pulling around. I'm like, all right. They went to the wrong building because I was waiting forever. I'm like, all right. So I'm expecting everyone to be in the parking lot. I've lived up this moment. I walk outside, and I just take a huge, deep breath. And I had this moment built up. I'm like, and then I looked around, and there was nobody there.
No family.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
we were still lost.
Yeah, you're still lost. Yeah. And I'm like, just breathe. I'm like, well, that was a beautiful moment of like freedom. Like, like I was like, wow, that was magical. And then I was like, I guess I'll just stand here then and wait. And then the guard comes back. He's like, actually, Chrisman, why don't you just come back inside? They're going to be a little bit. I'm like, all right. They went to another wrong building. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, well, shoot, screw it. I'll relive the moment. So I like walked around, grabbed my box, went back inside. And then they're like, oh, actually, they're here now. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I could definitely go for another fresh breath of air. Just do it all over again.
And so our family and our caravan of cars, we like get to the right spot finally. And Dad he thinks he gets into a lane that runs right in front of the building, and it's the security lane.
Yeah, where the guards park.
We were supposed to park in the visitors
parking lot
across from that. But no, Dad's like, okay, I'm supposed to. I mean, it makes sense. It's like, hey, let's pull up in front of the building, and we're in where the security cars are supposed to drive only, right. And so we're there, and immediately a security truck woman pulls up, and she's yelling at Dad, "You need to get back up and get out of here!"
Yeah, and that's what's crazy because I didn't even realize that they were yelling at you guys because I didn't even know until I seen you like. I just seen the one car, Mom's car. I didn't know because I haven't seen Katie's car in 7 years. I haven't seen Jenny's car in 7 years. I just knew what car you guys drove. So I just thought there was a bunch of random cars parked on this curb, and I didn't think anything of it.
No, we had 3 cars in the security driveway.
Right. And I'm like, I see this guard yelling at you guys, and I'm like starting to get angry because I'm like, what? Why are you yelling at my parents? Like,
this you know what I mean?
This is my family. What you? And so I started like, I'm like, no, Caleb, calm down. You want to leave this place? Don't stay. Don't stay. Don't trip out and stay, bro. Like,
so we all are turning our cars around. But what's funny is even at this moment, Caleb still doesn't realize that we brought my sister Katie all the kids, my sister Jenny and her husband and their kid. Kids. They had Israel at that point. He was just a little baby. And so we all finally get to the parking lot. And if you all want to go check it out, I put a video on my Instagram and stuff. You can go watch the full kind of thing. We had this whole reveal, picking him up kind of thing, and sobbed a lot of tears, held each other a long time. And
first time I cried in years, yeah.
First time you've seen your nieces and nephews in 7 years.
Yeah.
And so he was just holding on to those kids. Beautiful moment. Moment. Oh, man, it's just choking me up just to think about it again. And we finally got him. We finally found him in the right space. But Mom was just like, well, we failed you. Your one request when you got out was that you wanted coffee and donuts. And we were so late in the chaos of getting the whole family there.
I told my mom, I was like, it's cool. Like, I just thought you're like, what do you want to eat? I'm like, look, I'm very simple. I don't really care. I'm like, we'll just grab some coffee and donuts. Just bring me like a Long John, like Bavarian cream filled donut. Like, right? Like,
right. Yeah. You weren't expecting the big whole family entourage surprise.
I wasn't expecting like
I just wanted some donut and coffee.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting a feast or anything. Like, just bring me like a donut and we can hit the road and get back to KC. And of course, do you want to tell the part about the quick trip or the gas station?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. So of course, naturally, we're Chrismans, so we have to be people of our word, and so we're like, no, we're gonna go
and get you a donut.
We're gonna go get you a donut and some coffee. We're gonna make it the perfect moment. So we again, all 20 of us descend on this Casey's gas station
in the middle of nowhere,
Kansas. And we get out, and my niece Jerusha walks up, and she opens the door for Caleb as he's walking in, and she's like, "Your first stop ever."
And she was very stoked when she opened the door, and she just looked at me in deep, resounding eyes. She's like,
"Yeah," she's holding eye contact,
like really intense. I was like, "Well, thanks, Jerusha."
And there's a moment Caleb and I exchange this whole look, there's kids running around this gas station. We're getting coffee, donuts, snacks. And Caleb just looks at me and just goes, he's just sighs. And I'm like, bro. And I looked at him, I was like, bro, does it feel like you're tripping, man? He was like,
yeah, bro. I felt like I just took a hit to the head.
Yeah, this is some
straight Sid, bro. I'm like,
straight up weird
intensity.
Yeah, this is surreal.
Yeah.
And to me, this is still the best part of the whole story. And so we finally get Caleb and we get our donuts. Everyone's happy. We go back to the bed and breakfast place.
Well, you forgot the part about the donut though, bro. So my mom was like, "Look, they have Long Johns. They have Long Johns." I'm like, "It's okay, Mom. Okay, cool. It's all right. Thank you." I'm like, "We'll get the donut. It's all right. I don't care what kind of donut it is. It's all right." So we finally step outside. She goes, "Take a bite. Take a bite. Is it filled with cream?" And I'm like, "Okay. Hold on. I'm like, I take a bite. I'm like, "No, it's not." And she goes, "Oh, okay." And then
Oh, because you wanted one of them filled with cream.
Right. That was like what I asked for. Yeah. And so then I'm like, I take a second bite. I'm like, it's filled with cream. And then it was like, and everyone's freaking out. I'm like, it's a post-release miracle.
God has delivered manna into his hands. We have a donut filled with cream.
In the form of Navarian cream. Anyway, so yeah, that was a good moment.
I forgot about that.
And then this is, I got to probably tell this part.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because from my experience, it was, even crazier. So we pull up to the bed and breakfast. My mind is reeling. I'm trying to, collect my thoughts and get my mind coherent. Whoops, I just knocked this thing. And then we pull up to the bed and breakfast. And, it all went by so fast. I see my niece, Jocelyn, and she looks really sad. And she goes, hi, Uncle Cubby. Thanks. I'm glad you're out. And I'm like, Jocelyn, because me and her have actually a really good relationship, even all the years. Anytime the kids
talking on the phone,
answer the phone, she was always really like adamant, like, let me talk to Uncle Caleb, let me talk to Uncle Cubby. And so, we always had good conversations on the phone. So I looked at her, I'm like, man, I don't remember hugging you. I would have remembered that moment. And I just thought, and I looked at her, I'm like, hey, I was like, did I give you a hug? And she goes, no, they forgot me. And I'm like, what? And then next thing I know, she goes, yeah, they forgot me here at the bed and breakfast. I'm like, oh, no.
It was literally a Home Alone situation.
Yeah.
So rewind 2 hours beforehand.
Yeah.
And the mayhem when we're all trying to leave to go pick up Caleb, get in the cars. Yeah, you got to give grace to Katie and Neil because
they got
five kids, not 9. But
well, 9 with all of our nieces and nephews, like a little army. So
I guess all of them, but yeah. And one of her kids, they were like, "Where's Jocelyn?" They're like, "Oh, she got in Grammy and Papa's car." They just said it,
right?
They didn't even like think twice to check. They was like, "Okay, yeah." Like we all piled into the cars. Apparently, Jocelyn went to go change her shirt or change into something.
Yeah.
And so the poor girl, for those 2 hours, was at this bed and breakfast on this farm out in the middle of nowhere. And there's this cool dog named Bob that runs like the property. Yeah. Like he just like is roaming
around.
Yeah. And so she was just like, I hope it's okay. I brought Bob inside just to like hang out with me.
I also ate some fruit snacks. Yeah, she's like confessing her sins.
Like, Mom, Dad, I hope it's okay. I gave Bob some fruit snacks.
And Katie, you're like, it's okay. We don't care about the fruit snacks. And everyone felt really terrible.
We felt terrible, but we were also just so happy. We're like, oh.
That's okay. We're all alive. We're all
Poor
here.
Girl's going to always remember this for the rest of her life. The day she went to pick up her uncle from prison, she was left at
home alone.
Home alone for 2 hours. But as I said, like out of all the kids to be left, she was the most. Yeah.
She was the most mature. She was super boss about it.
She was like, I thought about going up to the house, like the people who own the property, and like talk. She's like, but then I realized I shouldn't talk to strangers. Just like
she was a thug.
Super cute.
She thugged it out. Like she did that.
And it was such a beautiful time, and it was a beautiful place. Like we just hung out. That night, my brother and I, man, we just looked at the stars, dude. And out in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, you could just see a million stars. Oh, yeah. And we both just had a moment. We're just like, bro, you're free.
Yeah.
You're free.
It was crazy because before that moment, I started having like almost like a panic attack. And I started having anxiety of like, what ifs? For 7 years, you're always looking over your shoulder. So now that I didn't have to look over my shoulder, I'm like, what enemy am I looking for? What fears out there that I'm not anticipating? So, if you remember me talking to you, I was like, bro, what about this? What if this? What if this? And you're like, bro, it's okay. And then we had that moment where we came out to the stars and we were just sitting there staring at the stars. And I just remember this like resounding peace that came over me. And I was just like, yeah, God's got me. You know what I mean? And I just looked at you and I told you, bro, I'm like, bro, it doesn't matter what happens tomorrow. Even if I died or anything traumatically devastating would happen, from this point on, I can know that I can take it on as a free man. And if I was to die, well, shoot, I'm dying a free man. You know what I mean? So that was a freeing moment to where I'm planning on dying anytime soon, but it was just the principle of like, hey, like it's okay because I made it.
You made it.
You know what I mean? I made it. So it was
that's why I felt the extra pressure driving us home for those 5-6
Don't kill Caleb.
hours. I was like, do not get in a car accident with Mom and Dad in the car and Caleb. We've all been staying alive for 7 years.
For this
we survived a pandemic. Like literally, dude, there were so many times you were like, worried about mom and dad. Don't die. I'm getting out. Because, I mean, let's be real. Like, we lost both our grandmas, you know, like, while you were in prison. And I wasn't
there, yeah.
Yeah. And you got to say goodbye. You did. Grandma came to visit you.
Grandma Shari.
Grandma Shari. Yeah. So at least, like, you got to spend time with
Grandma
her.
Chrisman passed, like, 2-3 months after I got locked up.
Right.
Yeah, so it was still, like, right within that period of time. Because her health was deteriorating right before that.
Yeah, I mean, she was 98. You know, like, it was... we got to spend a lot of good time with her. For sure, absolutely. You know, and I felt, when Grandma Chrisman passed, it was tough for me too because I was on a trip, like when she went into a coma, and so I only got to like come home like right at those last
few moments and say goodbye.
Like literally the night before, like I got home from Colorado, went to the nursing home, and just sat by her bed while she was in a coma and just said, "Hey, I love you." You know, I just talked to her, you know, and just I had to trust that she could hear me just because, you know, that's how
it's actually crazy about Grandma Chrisman, not to go too far, you know, on the subject, but like before she even went into the nursing home, I was helping take care of her at the house. Like I would just come over to the house and like cook her lunch or, you know what I mean? Like just, you know, go get groceries for her or whatever that whole summer. That was the most summer like I've hung out with her, like just me and her. And then she was put in the nursing home. And actually that day that I got arrested, I was actually planning on going afterwards to the nursing home to read the Bible to her because Mom was telling me that her like eyes, you know, she couldn't read very well. Mm-hmm. So I was going to go read the Bible to her that day. You know, I mean, you know,
yeah. Cheers to Grandma Chrisman.
Hey, yes. Yeah.
Just some water, but
yeah, it's water. Know. Yeah. Good agua.
Just gotta wish our loved ones who have passed on good
absolutely
good living,
good life
after death. You know. Well, brother, do you want to? We already determined that we're not going to go into details for your own safety, the people who've been involved, but
just out of respect too
out of respect for victims and stuff. But
yeah, for sure.
Do you want to go ahead and share just a little bit of like? Just the high level view of like, the life
overview, like the overview of what led me there.
What kind of precipitated before you went to prison.
Yeah.
What we'll get into the transformation that you went through while you're in prison.
Mm-hmm. So, how do you summarize a lifetime? let me start with this.
10 years, 9 years.
Yeah. I mean, but just as a whole life. I mean, we grew up together. We had an amazing childhood. You know, our family is special for sure, and our parents are special, and we grew up, you know, I told people in the joint all the time, like my silver spoon in my mouth is my family. You know, we didn't grow up rich, we didn't have a whole lot of money, we didn't have a whole lot of materialistic wealth, but we had family. And growing up as a kid, we didn't even realize we were poor for the most part until we became teenagers and we wanted to start buying stuff. And then my parents were like, "Oh no, we're broke. What are you talking about?" Like, you better go work for that, you know? Like, oh, okay.
I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 18.
Yeah,
because mom and dad like, you want a cell phone, you got to go pay for it.
Yeah, I'm like, dang, like I ain't got no money.
That's the life of being pastor kids too.
Yeah,
so that's part of it too.
Right.
It's like it was almost like a vocational living too, for the fact that like, yeah,
man. So I had an amazing childhood, amazing life growing up, and I'm blessed for it, and I appreciate it. And then at some point in time, you know, I feel like, you know, it's crazy when you start to become a teenager and your mind starts to develop and change, and you start to experience life on, you know, life's terms. And I just got to this point where insecurities, you know, deep-seated, rooted insecurities of insignificance, lacking. I wasn't, you know, godly enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't adventurous. You name it, all underneath the sun. And they manifested, you know, and those things were just kind of became reality. It was like, well, so I stopped trying. I stopped trying to learn. I stopped caring about health or, you know, physical well-being or fitness, you know. So I got fat and I, you know, ate all my food, and then I, you know, started doing drugs and partying and, you know, just trying to find a void and fill that void with anything and everything. And then it came to a point where I guess the best way to describe my teenage years is I didn't feel like I could be good enough. So if I can't be good, then maybe I can be bad enough. And that led a lifestyle of just pure negativity, honestly. And then leading up to the prison, there was this mental shift where I, was really just ingrained in the criminal lifestyle. And I was making, a lot of money, but I was miserable mentally, spiritually, physically, due to all the, substances and everything that I was doing. And, and it just came to a point where then I started hanging out with hippies, and then I started having a mental shift where I'm like, well, wait, I realized I started, I tripped shrooms for the first time, and then I just realized, I'm like, wait a minute, maybe there's more to life than just money and, hustling and this and that and third. And then...
Will you share that story of when you tripped shrooms and you saw the future?
Yeah, saw the future. Yeah, man. So, about 2 to 3 months prior to going to prison, me and some friends were, I was going to go drop off some stuff and make some money doing what I always did every day. And, I started experimenting with psychedelics and different things and hanging out with some hippies. And, my mind started shifting to where I was like, man, I was really dissatisfied with this criminal life and persona of wannabe gangsterism that I was building and I was living. And so I took some shrooms, and we were out on our way to Kansas, and we do the deal and everything. And I just had this moment where I'm like, man, I don't want to keep doing this. I'm not about this life anymore. I want out of this crap. And so we started heading back to KC, and we're driving back, and I remember looking out the sunroof, and I'm checking out the stars. I'm just on my own little journey and experiencing life on new terms. And then I black out, and I was sitting in a chair holding something, right? And I look up, and I'm staring at myself, right? I'm staring at myself, and I'm wearing an orange jumpsuit. And I'm like, what the heck am I looking at, fool? What is this? And I'm staring at myself, and I'm like, man, where am I? And then I just feel this voice, which now I attribute to God. Now I know. But at the time, I was just I just thought I was tripping face. So, I was just so.
Tripping face.
Yeah, bro. So I was we were on our way back, and I had this moment, where am I? And then I had this, feel this voice or this, presence just say, Caleb, if you keep going down this path, this is where you're headed. And then, boom, I flash back, and I'm in the car, and I got a cigarette in my right hand, and I'm about to burn myself. So I quickly ash it, and then I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, well, that's just my psyche telling me, you've broken the law 40, 50 times in the last week. It's just, psychologically my mind trying to tell me that it's going to catch up to me. Mm-hmm. Well, then fast forward, and those, I had this moment where I shared my testimony and stuff, and I kind of went through all these bullet points about how God was trying to reach me before prison. And then at that time, I stopped doing a lot of the criminal activity I was doing because I just had this mental shift where I was like, screw it, I'm going to transfer Costco's, go live out in Colorado, and try to become a free-living, traveling hippie. That was my thought I had, you know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, that sounds much better than the life I'm currently living. And, but something I realize is when you believe something about yourself and you internalize something about yourself for so long, when you have a new sense of identity or thought process, your defense mechanisms are going to come out, and it's going to try to ingrain you to that original belief system. And that's exactly what happened. And that's exactly what led me to prison, was the sense of loyalty. You have to be this, you have to be loyal, you have to have your people's backs. You got to put yourself in this environment because this is what you've said you've been for the last 5-7 years of your life. And if you turn your back on that, then that's disingenuous and you're a fake. And that's something I never really wanted to be in my life, was fake or disingenuine, because I've seen so much fakeness and disingenuinity or whatever.
Disingenuous.
Yeah. I didn't go to college. I went to prison. So what are you going to
do? You went to the school of hard knocks.
Yeah, that's right. I got a PhD in criminality. So so looking back, I can look and put this pieces together. And then those were like multiple moments like that, even sober, like that I felt like that presence come and tell me like, dude, you better, give this up, and
but didn't you see yourself like in an orange jumpsuit?
Yeah. So okay, fast forwarding, I get arrested, and I've been in a lot of different jails and a lot of prisons, being transported around, being farmed out to different prisons when overpopulation happened and different stuff. And I have never been in a jail like this one in Jackson County, downtown Jackson County in KC. I was on the 3rd floor in like C-Pod or something, and I'm wearing, they give you an orange jumpsuit, one little blanket, toilet paper, and a little toothbrush the size of your pinky. Same thing with toothpaste, and that's it. And then a little bar of soap. And so I got this bar of soap and everything, and I'm, sleeping in a sled. They call them sleds because the pods were overpopulated, so we're all sleeping on the floors in the day room in sleds, big boat. It's like a big plastic sled. And so I'm sleeping in the sled, and the next day I wake up and
it's literally shaped like a sled.
No, like it's literally looks like like a sled. Like that's the best way to describe it. It's just a big sled.
Wow.
And you just throw your like little mat if you have one, and then you just sleep with your blanket, usually without a pillow. So I wake up the next morning and I go make a phone call, and I was going to go take a shower, which I have to wash my hands, I have to shower, everything with this bar of soap, because I've only been there like 3 days, so I don't have anything. You have to wait for canteen to like get shampoo or, basic necessities or honey bun, whatever is on the canteen. So I was, sitting in my orange jumpsuit, and I look up, and so this pod was designed to where all the windows are mirrors when you're in the pod. And then the guards on the other side, it's a tinted window to where they can look into the pod and keep eyes on us, But we can't look out of the pod, and it's a way of keeping us from, communicating with other inmates or gang members and different stuff in the pods directly across from us, right? Or see what the guard's doing or whatever. So I was, I'm looking, and I look up, and I'm holding this bar of soap in my right hand after I just got the phone, Mom, and she was crying, and, it's every phone call was hard, this first month or so. And so, I hang up the phone, and I'm trying not to cry, I'm trying to keep my emotions under wraps because, my anxiety is already spiked because I'm in there with one of maybe 5 or 6 white boys, and the rest is every other ethnicity, where you're just like, it's all gangs, and you're just like, dang, like, yeah, I'm in it. I'm here, and so you're trying not to show emotion or appear weak. So I'm like, Mom, it's going to be all right. I love you, etc. So hang up the phone, and I look up, and I stare at myself, and I'm wearing that orange jumpsuit. And I swear to God, like, it was the most deja vu moment of my life. And I was like down to like the T of like how I was sitting, how I looked, and down to holding something in my right hand. I didn't know what it was when I was tripping, but when I looked down at my right hand, I was holding a bar of soap. Wow. I had to go shower, and I was like, holy cow, man, like, this is real. Like, this is like, I've seen this moment before. And then I remembered the trip, and I was like, damn, like, God and the universe like literally tried to like warn me, and I didn't listen. And bam, I experienced.
Do you remember that moment from tripping beforehand? Do you remember?
If I just like any other moment or trip or anything you go on, you remember stuff, but it doesn't appear. It doesn't, resonate on a day-to-day basis. But until you sit down, just like any memory or thought, when you sit down and you actually think about it, yeah, it surfaces to the brain. But you don't realize until you've relived it in reality and life's terms, and then you're like, oh wow, wait. This is deja vu. Oh, wait, this is where I've seen this. And then it just comes to surface when you're like donkey punch to the face, like you're there, and you're like, yeah. So that was my, one of my many 1,001 experiences with, divine intervention or thought, things I've seen.
Attempted intervention.
Or attempted intervention because I didn't listen.
It was like, hey, Caleb, please don't go down this path. And
I'm like, all right, cool. See you guys down the road when I have a deja vu because I went down this path.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a glitch in the simulation almost. It's kind of like you got to see a glimpse of what the future held, and I don't know, it's just crazy that it's still unfolded, but I bet that gravity of that moment sank in even more when you saw that bar of soap in your hand and the jumpsuit, and you're like, holy shit, like I fucked up. Like, I'm here.
Like, yeah, dude, for sure.
I remember going with Mom to like visit you for the first time. It was just me and her, and yeah, it was tough, dude. It was really tough. Like, I remember getting the call while I was in college from Mom, and again, just thinking like someone's made a mistake. And my honest to God thought was like, Caleb got caught with a bunch of weed. Like, it's gonna be fine.
He's gonna get a couple months. He'll be fine.
It'll be a couple months, and then it turned out it was like a strong-armed robbery.
Yeah. Like
with drug related, but
yeah.
And we said we wouldn't go into the details of that for the honor of the victims, but 2 years of county jail from that point on, and so just Douglas County, all these different counties, dude, just going to visit different places.
Here, there,
and then you ended up in Lansing.
Yeah.
You want to share a little bit about what it was like to get to big boy prison?
Yeah. It's a crazy story.
Because county jail, I know, was like hard. It was tough.
Yeah, well, they say county time's hard time, right? Because you have nothing, you're living with nothing. I went a year and a half without even seeing like almost a tree.
Well, right? before we go to the Lansing bit, share the story about, because this is the powerful story. I feel like you're talking about the things scribbled on the walls in the county jail.
Yeah. So.
Because again, this is my diary / your diary now.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And so we're documenting, we're recording this to just be able to go back and always remember.
They're in my diaries. I got like 30 of them.
Literal diaries.
Yeah. Like just paper. Sometimes wrote it on toilet paper because I didn't have any paper to write on, and I wrote on toilet paper.
Yeah.
So there was a crazy moment. One moment that really stands out amongst, thousands and one. So I was told I was looking at like 30 years. And I was like, oh, wow, my life's over. I might be 50, 60 years old by the time I get out of here, and.
Because you went in at 22.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, well, that's all she wrote. Like, it's over with for me. And then, I held my emotions and stuff, but didn't want to cry in front of anybody or nothing. And I stepped out of my cell, and yeah, dude, I broke down. I was like, it was over with. I was like, man, my life's over. Like, it's a wrap, And then I looked at the wall. And head to toe, like there's graffiti in the cell that I was in. And, you name it, there's Bible verses on the wall, there's inspirational quotes, there's swastikas, there's, gang member tattoos and mob tattoos, and you name it, it's all over the walls, right? But in the middle of all of this kaleidoscope of like negativity and like small spurts of like positivity, someone had broken open like 3 little what they call flex pens. They're like little pens that you just bend, that way you can't stab anybody with it. And it's like the worst pen to write with. Like I still have calluses on my finger from writing so much with them stupid things. But someone had broken them open or cut them open, probably like a broken razor blade or something. And they finger painted like mind over matter dripping down the wall. And that to me was like a very powerful moment because then I realized for the first time in my life, because I always had a social disorder where I had always had to be surrounded by people. I had to be the man of the hour, friends, partying. I always had to be the funny guy. Always had to have a phone. Always had to have technology. And, and then I realized the only person in this room is me. And the only way I'm going to make it through this is mind over matter. The matter of the reality of my circumstances. And and so I've seen that mind over matter just dripping down the wall, like almost like running down paint. Someone had painted down all of it. And that to me just like resounded, and I just prayed, and I was just like, yeah, God, like, shit, I ain't perfect, you know what I mean? But you saved my life once, and well, he saved my life 1,000 times, but what are you gonna do? I'm just a dumbass. Yeah. Don't listen. But anyway, so I seen the mind over matter dripping down the wall, and I was just like, yeah, man, like I realized, and I use this analogy, for the couple people I've talked to since being out in the last 5 months, that prison doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't help you. It doesn't reform you. It doesn't even, the only thing that it does is truly oppress and can make you worse, right?
Yeah.
But
institutionalism.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But the one thing I will say that prison has blessed me with, and it gives every inmate or convict this opportunity. It strips you damn near butt naked down to your bare soul. Every preconception or idea of yourself or life or whatever, it strips you bare of all of it. And then it'll hand you a mirror in your most vulnerable state in the gift of time. Mm. And that mirror, and I've noticed this in my 7 years journey and whatnot, every inmate or convict has one or two choices when presented this mirror in the gift of time. They either look in the mirror and they see who they've truly become and who they truly are, and then do everything within their power, going uphill in an oppressive system, in a detrimental environment, to try to change that person and cultivate the man they hope to be, or they turn away and they do everything they can to distract themselves. And that's when you get people just gangbanging, drugs, trying to hustle, trying to be the man in the joint, trying to get stuff in, trying to be the cool guy and the cool crowds, running the politics, you name it. You can distract yourself even down to the bare minimum of just playing cards or dominoes, just anything you can do to get your eyes off of time and the reality that you're wasting your time in your life.
And the reflection of yourself.
And the reflection of yourself, exactly. And so that's when I just realized, I'm like, no, dude, I have this tattoo on my chest as the warrior inside of thee. And I always believed myself to be an overcomer, even when I was beyond. And I got that tattoo in spite of my insecurities and belief systems that I was a failure and whatever. And I just realized, I'm like, nah, dude, it's time to manifest that. No matter what happens, whether you get 30 years or 30 days, you are going to you're going to conquer mind over matter. You are going to look in this mirror and you're going to do everything you can and within your power to change it. And so when I got to prison and even county jail, I started studying religions, and because that's all you had to do, because you didn't have any workout equipment. And I didn't even know how to work out, let alone, I didn't even know anything about nothing, and that's when I realized just how void my mind was of intellectual inclined anything. I was just empty, and I was just like, wow. For the first time, it was me, myself, and I didn't like the man who I was, and so I was determined.
And you studied Buddhism.
Oh yeah, dude. I studied I don't want to say every religion, but
the major ones.
Yeah, the major ones, and any other material that I can get my hand on in the library. I just I've read the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and that thing's this freaking big, dude. That thing's as big as my damn.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's as big as my damn head, bro. It took me a month to really go through it and really diagnose, knows it. And the Catholics didn't like me when they came to visit, and I had a conversation with them, and they're trying to preach at me, and I was they're like, dude, challenge me. He was like, well, he's like, you need to, submit to the church, the Catholic Church, and da-da-da. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I'm like, I bet. And then I was like, so I didn't go to any other Catholic churches, meetings for a solid month. They're like, call out. I'm like, nope, I'm good. And I just read the Catechism. And then I read the Bible, and I just compared the two. And I came back to him, and I was like, hey, man, what's going on? And I was like, hey, I just wanted to say before. And he's like, yeah, did you do your searching on the Catechism? Because he gave it to me. And I was like, I did. And he's like, what were your thoughts on it? I'm like, well, before I share my thoughts, I first want to say I appreciate you and the other priest coming in here and trying to share your, the light, and try to encourage us, because that means that speaks a lot about you as a person. And before I even go into my thoughts on the Catechism and the Catholic Church, I just want to say I appreciate you, and I appreciate your heart to help us. And he's like, oh, well, I appreciate that, man. And then I tore his ass a new one. Yeah, dude. Then I was just I just literally sat down. I was like, all right, so check this out. In the Bible, it says, Jesus says, I am the way, the true life. No man enter the kingdom but through me. But then here on Catechism, the Pope then decrees in this year, this time, blah, 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 that you must go between a priest and God. And so I was like, so which one is it? Is it Jesus's words or this Pope's words? Well, and then they go into the whole, and I'm not going to go, I don't want to go too much of a rabbit trail. I'm not trying to bash on Catholics or anything like that. It's not like that. It's just my own journey. I just, and I
But you understood your faith. And
and I just realized, I'm like, dude, there's no way to God if you even believe that there is a God. And you're not going to find that in between any human being that is on this earth, period. And if you believe that there is a God, there's only one way you're going to meet that God, and that is you and God. And that's why even Jesus says, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. And I loved Buddhism. I read, the Eightfold Path. I've read the Lotus. I've read, all these different books about Tibet Buddhism and Hinduism. I read the Bhagavad Gita, and I read the Quran. And there are some things that, from my mind, for me, spiritually, just wasn't there, and the majority, but I was able to pull gold nuggets out of every religion and appreciation and value of them, even if I don't choose to put my 100% faith in them. And I tell people that me and God are best friends, but me and religion struggle. So, that's something I tell people recently is I don't pursue holiness, I pursue God. And I'm not perfect, and I don't try to be perfect, and I'm never gonna be perfect, but that's okay, because it's okay not to be perfect. We are made perfect in our imperfections. So, yeah, dude. So I just, that was my whole journey of county jail, was just religion and
so it was 2 years again before you were fully sentenced.
And self-destruction, like just deconstructing of who I thought I was in this construct of this is what you have to be. And I was just like, no. And I had a daily, I started meditating. I started praying. I started trying to, figure out my own faith walk, if God was real for myself, or if I even believe in this, not because I was just in a bad situation or because my parents had taught me this. Like, what do I believe for myself? And then I looked back at my life and I'm like, dude, there's no way I should be alive or not doing a life sentence. Like, to me, that's where I ground myself. Like, I choose to believe that there's a higher power because there's no way I should be alive or here. So, I remember
us having really deep conversations before you went to prison.
Yeah.
Like, I remember one time at your apartment, you and I.
Was I on acid?
No, it was. It was probably a day after that. It was probably an activity a day after those kind of activities.
Yeah.
And you and I were sitting at the poker table
downstairs,
smoking a cigarette in the garage, and you and I were having a real deep conversation about just faith and religion. I think what was tough for you was during that time, or even the years before that, it was like I was such a devout Christian. I was like the Bible study leader, and and so in some ways, I think,
and I was the bad kid.
My religiosity and my kind of inauthentic, again, at the time it felt like an authentic faith to me, but realized that, I was being the good kid, the older brother.
Yeah.
And
everyone's like, why can't you be more like Micah? Why can't you have a cell group? And I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to go sell drugs.
I'm just going to go do some shitty shit.
Yeah, let me just go over here and be like a little hooligan. I'm cool on all that.
But I remember us having more heart-to-hearts because, I was in college and I was starting to have my own faith deconstruction, and you and I were interacting more authentically, I think, during that time. And I remember asking you, why don't you, you say you're exploring your faith, why not try, Buddhism? Why not try, these other faith, just exploring them? And I remember just that being was just kind of a weird moment for you, because it was here's my Christian brother
telling me to explore different religions.
To explore different religions. And it was my honest to God,
opinion.
Yeah, why not, if you really are exploring your faith, really explore it. Try to explore outside of the bounds of Christianity, not just between evangelical Baptists or Catholicism, which are still in the
Christian
same Christian foundational things. And I think that there was just so much, you were going through depression, truthfully. I think that's what was happening. You didn't, there was a lot of just an apathy towards life in your eyes, and there was so much of your desire to want to explore those things. And so it's sad that it took going to prison
Yeah.
and having all that free time
Yeah.
thrown at you for you to finally kind of get to explore your own faith, you know? And now here I am on the other side, not an evangelical Christian anymore, and not
hard, bro. Like,
not those things. So we all,
but that's the thing, like, bro, like, you know, I've just even had recent conversations with family and, you know, different people, and, you know, like, I'll never say never, because one thing I've learned in my life is there is no absolutes, and, you know, what one truth may be for you today may be different for you a different day. Because we're living, growing organisms, and we're experiencing life on a daily basis. And so when other people say, I will never be this, or I will never do this, you've already put yourself in an incarcerated mental box. And so I choose not to, and I'm learning this on a daily basis, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to conscientiously ground myself daily to no absolutes. But as of right now, I don't know if I could ever be that stereotypical evangelistic Christian where they go to church and they have their 5 kids and they have their family. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But I also know that I can have church like this right here.
Yeah.
I can have church with 5 or 6 pagans but that doesn't mean I have to defer from my belief, but I can still love and accept someone even if their belief is different than mine. And that's not even a universalistic mindset. That's just a genuine mindset that I tell myself. Like,
sure,
I don't have to be anything or any construct or any kind of box that any man has set before me and says, you need to conform to this to reach God. Because in my experience, you only conform to the establishment that you're conforming to, only to learn that the establishment will fail you, which then will make you disillusioned with the God that you originally set out to meet. And so,
snap.
Hey, yes. No, but I'm just saying, like, that's my construct thought on that, you know.
Well, that's why I've told people from the beginning that I'm setting out to start my own church, the Pray for Micah Church, and
I'll be a deacon.
you could be a deacon of a church just so I can fail at everyone at being a horrible God. You know? This God likes to just chill and smoke hookah a lot.
Like, it's all good until the human sacrifice, bro. Which that's one thing I love, like the
orgies. You know?
Oh, like the Asatrus, bro. I used to hang out with Asatrus in prison, and you know, like, not to go back to prison to digress, but you know, like they worshipped Odin and Thor and Freya, and I would hang out with them, and people were just like, oh, you're a white supremacist, because you hang out with the whites. I'm like, it's just such a backward stigma to where
you're a white person in prison. It's gonna be assumed that
it's just
you hanging out with other white people.
I didn't have to even get a swastika tattooed on my face to be construed as that. Even when I didn't run with them, I still was able, and I made friends with, you know, the Mexicans, and I hung out a lot with the Mexicans, and I had friends that were in different gangs that I won't even name, you know, that I was really close with and different stuff of all ethnicities. It's just it's unfortunate, one of those things about being the white guy. If you hung out with the whites, you're automatically labeled a white supremacist. But if you're any other ethnicity, you can hang out with your own and then be considered a brother. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But anyways, I used to hang out with the Satrus, and I loved hanging out with them and talking to them sometimes because they would share with me their religion about, you know, Odin and Thor, and, you know, they call him the Allfather, or, you know what I'm saying? And it's crazy because, like, in Norse mythology and religion, and I even studied like Greek gods and Roman gods, and really try to dive deep on all those different ancient, you know, religions that paved, you know, really, like, you know, society, social construct of, you know, the Roman Empire, and they took it from the Greeks, and the Greeks took it from this people, and, you know,
right.
And it just, you know, it's kind of like a domino effect. But yeah, I just didn't. I mean, I was like, it sounds like a cool religion until you come to the, you know, the factors of, if your baby's frail, we're gonna just leave it outside, and if it lives, then the God's blessed it. Like, well, I mean, there's a lot of good, you know, just gold truths and, you know, solid things that are beautiful in any religion. But there's some also things, and when you get really into the heart of it, like, well, I mean, I knew a guy who was an Asatru. He told me he stopped being a Asatru, and he turned his back on the religion. He actually got jumped and stuff because he didn't want to hang out in the gang anymore. He was a well-known figure in that time or whatever, and he got in an argument with somebody, and it ended up escalating into a bad situation. But he stood true to his, belief, like 10 toes down. He did that. And he told me one day, we were talking, and he said the reason that he was turning his faith back on, his back on that faith, was because he had a son, and his son was like born prematurely and was weak and stuff. And he realized, like, based off his faith, like, wow, like, if this is truly what I believe in, then I should take my son and put him in the woods and leave him overnight. And if he survives, then he is deemed worthy. And he realized that it was just such a barbaric way of thinking that he would never do that to something he loves so much. So he, to him,
that was like what Hitler and all them did with eugenics. Like that's the whole belief that, like, hey, there are lesser genetic people who had disabilities that, along with the Jews, along with black folks, they were like, hey, let's
kill them all off.
Let's kill them off. Yeah, like people with, and it's happening right now over in Europe. They've got people who can test for babies who have Down syndrome before they're born.
Yeah,
and people can abort them before they're born because they realize, and we don't want to
keep this genetic,
right, and
strain
the moralistic,
going.
Problematic thing about that is, like, inherently looking at the inherent, like, divinity and love in a person who has those genetic flaws or genetic issues. I don't want to call them flaws, but somebody who has Down syndrome, like. Your life's going to have some more hurdles to go through, but that doesn't make them less of a human.
Absolutely.
To love that child, know?
Yeah, man.
And also, it's barbaric. Like, Spartans or something, like, leave them out for the wolves.
Like, if he comes back with a wolf's head, then he's a god. Like,
fuck those people.
Like, it's all bad, dude. Like, no. It's a baby, bro. Like, it's going to be all right. That guy could have probably grown up to be like 7 foot tall and like the best warrior of your clan, but
or not, and we still love him,
or not, but you would never know because you left him out to the wolves. So, but and so I don't know, just even the Asatru's and different, beliefs or religions.
Share more about, like, your transition to Lansing.
Okay.
Just kind of what your journey was there.
Yeah, so that was a journey. So it was funny because I was in RDU at the time, which is like the diagnostic state, wherever you're like, they run tests on you, they draw your blood, they send you to the dentist, check out your teeth, whatever, pretty much dehumanizing you, but also trying to, like, pick apart your psyche. And if you're, like, mentally unstable, and they try to get you on, like, 40 different medications, if you tell them, like, you're depressed, well, they got 20 different different drugs to try to guinea pig you on, that they get all kickbacks from the federal government for.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like, you can break your arm. A good friend of mine, he actually dislocated his arm, and they made him wait 2 weeks with a dislocated arm before they finally took him to the doctor. But if you go up to them and you say you hear voices, well, they got 15 different new kinds of medications to try to run a cycle on you. And then people used to joke that it was the zombie ward, where, it's called True Unit in Lansing, where as soon as they would call them out to chow, dude, they looked like zombies. Just, disheveled, disgruntled, like, growing their facial hair out, just, like, not to be unempathetic, but they're just, like, dirty and high. Like, they were in such a fogged state because they were on so many different trial drugs that, no one really knows what they're giving you.
They really are trial drugs. They weren't like...
Well, I mean, nobody knows. No one really knows in the prison. I mean, I'm sure if you talk to a professional, they're like, oh, no, these are all... But they get new lists of drugs that they can put into the system, but nobody's taking those drugs out here. For something like for Xanax, for anxiety, or, ADHD, they got 10 different generic drugs that they're going to give you to the prisons, because they won't give you those drugs because so many drug addicts, and that's their excuse, is, well, if we give people Xanax, they're going to just abuse it because they're drug addicts.
Oh, interesting.
So they give you all these different dumbed down generic versions of it, and they give it to the clinics, the federal government does, and then the federal government pays the state prisons to prescribe them to you. So getting on them drugs is like one mental health sick call away.
Wow.
So all you have to do is say, I have trouble sleeping.
So you can't get physical therapy or physical health checks.
It's hard.
Pump pills in you day in, day
out.
Absolutely.
And because they want you fat, docile, weak-minded, and they do not want you to think for yourself, because then it's easier to control you. And so it just comes down to mind over matter once again. So when I had trouble sleeping, because it was 110 degrees outside and the walls are sweating because of the heat and there's no air conditioning, I'm taking water and just dumping it on my face. And, what do? Take medication and lose yourself, or you strive for mind over matter. And that's how I'm personally, and I'm sure there's 100,000 men.
It's not to say that some of those people didn't need medication.
Oh, no, absolutely. Some people, there's some people who are schizophrenic.
But it just shows you're not getting equal health care.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's
what,
and I'm not discrediting people who need medication. I'm just saying I was never about to put myself on any kind of form of dependence in that environment, because I seen the fallout where people were getting medications that were not helping them, that were making them super, like the dudes I knew. So I knew this one guy when I was in county jail. He told me, oh man, I'm going to pretend to be crazy and I'm going to go to Larnard and I'm going to get on, tell them I hear voices and stuff, because they feed you good there and it's super chill there. But you should do the same thing. And I'm like, nah, I'll just go to big boy prison. I'll be all right. I ran into that dude like 4 years later. He had gained over 100 pounds. Dude was huge. And I said, hey, man, what's up? And I'm like, hey, remember me from county jail? And he looked at me, and you could look into his eyes, and it was like another human being. And he had become crazy. He would sit down with all the other people and, like, just stare off into the corners of the cells. In the chow hall. And dude was just ate up. And it was like, it was so sad. It was so sad because he was such a nice guy, he had a drug addiction and different things, but it's like just seeing the transformation of 3 years of the medical, availability to him. He came out. I don't know where he's at now, and I hope he's in a better place. But all I know is when I seen him, it was like seeing a shell of a human being that I had met, and so I was like, wow, do I cope with my struggles this way? Always having a fear of getting stabbed, or always fearing of this or that, or always having to look over your shoulder, or always having to play the field of surviving day-to-day basis, and just enjoying life at the same time. Funny memories, hanging out with your friends on the yard, working out on the yard, hanging out with people, going to classes, people laughing, playing chess with your best friend. You had those memories too, but like, do you cope or do you learn different coping? So I would start studying religions, and so it just kind of was like a wheel. I just learned music and breathing and meditating and praying and depending on God and family. And I also have a silver spoon in my mouth, right? I went to prison even with all the fallout of all the fake friends that I thought I had, that all just fell off the face of the earth when I got locked away. And I had, I have hundreds of friends and different things and da-da-da. But I had a family, and I also have friends to this day that are my family. Yeah. That are still like, I don't see them as my friends anymore. They're my family, and they've become that for me. And they rode with me for 7 years, and I was blessed to have that. And a lot of men don't have that, and a lot of guys in prisons don't have what I had.
That support network of calls and letters and things, people putting money on your books.
Exactly. And I was blessed.
That makes a big difference.
And I was blessed to have a little bit of my own money getting locked up. I sold my car, and I, never was really broke, so I had my own money too. So it was like just a huge blessing to be able to. I definitely was in a niche situation where I was able to better myself, and I know a lot of guys who aren't in that situation. Some of it is self-imposed because they robbed their parents, they robbed their family. I've never done that, but it's also not imposed. Some people grew up without a family. They grew up homeless. They grew up in the system. They grew up broken and disillusioned with life. And, so there's so many complexities. It's like a diamond, and it's just, you focus on one facet. You got the Republicans and all these different people saying, well, you do the crime, you do the time. And then, then you got over here, the extreme, Democratic, saying, well, all crimes should just be forgiven and everyone should just, blah, blah, blah. But then there's some people who are just genuinely, I believe every man should have a second chance in life. But there's some people that I've met where I'm like, bro, I hope you never get out.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to murder again. You have heart intent on doing harm. And though I don't wish ill will upon you, I know you will bring ill will upon others if you were ever given the chance to. And so there's some people where there's a reason for prisons, and I understand that. So it's like, it's not one shoe fits all. It's very...
But maybe we don't need to incarcerate every person who has their hand on some weed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, for sure. Like, and then there's just the business construct of where it's warehousing, where they're just trying to get as many bodies as they can because it's a business and they're trying to make money. And then it makes people worse, and it creates even more PTSD and even more trauma, which then increases the drug use and the need for drugs and the dependence on drugs, which then they outlaw weed, but then they give you 15 different pills that will make you lose your mind.
Mm.
And they'll legalize those, but then we're not going to when you go to your doctor, they're not going to give you any of the your doctor's not going to sit here and say, I have all this list of drugs, and I promise you, if you compare the two between if you go to a doctor's office on the street and you go into the prison in the psych ward, it will not be the same medication.
Yeah.
It will not be. And I'm not a doctor. I am not a professional pharmacist, but all I know is what I saw on a day-to-day basis of the human beings that were walking around me. And I was like, yeah, I do not want what they got.
I don't want those drugs.
Yeah, I don't want those drugs. Yeah, if I was in there, I would be like, dude, what's some weed or shrooms? Like, I'm cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are good. All right, that's all right. But this stuff is like gonna make me lose my mind. So I'm cool.
And I remember you sharing a story with me about just I mean, this is just one small facet of like the money making system of prison.
Yeah.
And you were sharing how there's like an allotted amount of money.
Hookah.
Yeah, here's some hookah.
Yeah, gracias. You've been just hogging it.
I've been
over
hogging
here.
it the whole time.
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, you've been talking. You've been on a train of thought, so I didn't,
I've been on my own little trip.
I'm just sitting back, just chilling, just smoking my hookah, just listening to Caleb. Like, you do all the work, Caleb.
Yeah.
This isn't my podcast. It's yours now. You could just take over.
Welcome to Caleb's podcast.
Pray for Caleb.
Pray for Caleb. He needs it. He just got done doing 7 years of prison.
Oh, that doesn't have a good ring to it, though. Yeah, pray for Micah. No.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
But you were talking about how just small things, like how this is just one small facet, but you were saying like that they had like $30,000 a year allotted for weight equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't updated the weight equipment since like 1980s.
So we had weights in Lansing. Let me bring this little mic a little closer. So we had weights in Lansing for, I don't know, they were back from the 70s and 80s, and all the weight equipment was just rusted because it sat outside in the snow, the rain, you name it, and it broke. And we just had to get creative in working out. We weren't allowed to wear gloves. So you're working out in sub-zero degree weather. Well, and that's sometimes I tell myself that now. Like, I'll be going like, I don't want to go to the gym. But then I'm like, dude, you're in the air conditioning. Stop being soft. Take your ass to the gym, dude. You know what I mean? Like, if you can work out in the snow wearing socks for gloves as little mittens, and you're trying to press like 225 and you can't feel your fingers or your toes, you can go to the gym, bro. Like, it's going to be all right. Like, okay, all right, let me take my ass to the gym and get my workout in. So
right.
That's how but like you go back on even the financial situation, like every year the prisons will get an allotted amount of money for activities. So the activities people, the board of directors, they'll, okay, well, we need new baseballs. We need new gloving mitts. And then they would, in the summers, they would, like do like little baseball tryouts, and some prisons are better than others, but Lansing, the money went to Lansing and it disappeared in Lansing.
Right.
And same thing with like
I'm sure that was just like one area of the budget. That's just like, okay, in your day-to-day routine, you could just notice like, hey, wait, I've been here for how many years and they've never updated this equipment, and yet there's money allotted to update this shit every year.
Yeah. And then
it's like, okay, that's probably related to the same thing.
Board.
Food.
Oh, yeah.
Housing.
Oh, the food, bro. We won't even get started on the food. On the food, it says for non-human consumption for some of the boxes that come in. I've seen it working in the kitchens, and it comes in big slabs of mystery meat, literally mystery meat. And it's like hamburger, and the food is sometimes green, like the meat's green. You don't even know what it is, but people call it mystery meat. Like that's like kind of like they'll make slices of ham, but in the ham it's green, like literally like a rainbow of green going through it, and you don't really know why. Oh but God. Yeah, dude, like it's like that. And then like the water system. Now they shut the old Lansing down, and they built a new Lansing, and they made it all about, oh well, it's just so bad here at this prison. Which, yeah, I get it. It was. Should have been shut down like in the 60s and the 50s. It was one of the oldest prisons in the 1800s. So it's definitely one of the oldest prisons in like the Midwest. And it used to be a federal penitentiary. Yeah, so they built a new Lansing that's like modern day, state of the art, whatever, but it's still crap. I stayed there when I had COVID for a couple months when I got to my minimum custody, and I went back to Lansing. And it was funny because everyone was scared to go to Lansing. And I'm like, oh, it's cool. I did like 3 or 4 years there, man. It's like, it's not bad. I know like half the people there. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I wasn't really worried about it. But when I got there and I got to the new Lansing, I'm like, oh, this sucks. Like, you're in a little 2-man cell. It's like county jail, honestly, except on a much grander scale. And so it just was crappy. But I'll give them this. They didn't have black mold coming down the water.
That's good.
Yeah. They definitely.
That was in the old Lansing.
That was in the old Lansing where I was at, where you had to push the water about 10 to 15 times before the like little black chunks would stop coming out.
Oh my God.
So definitely want to run the water for a little bit. And then the cockroaches, it's infested. We used to take tape and like roll up little balls of tape and like stick up in the corners of the cells or like by the bathroom. Then we would make bets and see how many we can get stuck to them by morning time.
This reminds me of the story. Tell folks about the fly ritual. Your fly game.
So my uncle taught me this like little hustle, and he used to, at first my mom was like, "Look, it's a miracle," and then my Uncle Joe like later like in life was sitting down talking to me about it, and what they do is you take a fly and you drown it in water, and then if you put salt on it, it absorbs the water off of the fly and it'll fly away. Well, my uncle, years later told me that's something he used to do at bars and different, a way of hustling to get money and get by when he was on the run. So I was like, all right. So I get to prison and we're bored. I went actually in county jail, and I did in prison too. But in county jail, I really did it a lot because we were so bored. And I had captured like 4 or 5 flies in my cell. And I had these little cups that like the guys who took meds, I would borrow their cups and I would poke little holes in the top of it so the fly could breathe, and then I would fill it up with water and drown him. So anytime a new guy came into the pod, I would make like bets like, hey bro, I bet you $5 or I bet you like 3 honey buns, which is the currency of whatever, that I can drown this fly and bring it back to life. And they'd be like, no way. And I'm like, shit, throw some honey buns on it, bro. And then I would drown the fly, and then I'd like put the salt on it and like move the fly around, Finally the fly would start walking. I'm like, up, see? Shit, pay up, fool. And so that's how I'd get money. That's how I get money. Water out of the lung. Yeah, I even conned a guard out of it one time because the guard's like, what the hell are you guys doing with all that salt? And I'm like, bro, give us an extra hour of free time and I will drown this fly and bring it back to life. He's like, no way. And I'm like, shit, make it 2 hours free time. He goes, hour and a half. And I'm like, bet. And so I did it for him. He's like, damn it, Chrisman. I was like, all right, well, only you get more free time. Everyone else has to lock down. I'm like, all right, bet. And everyone's like, oh, man. I'm like, woohoo. Woohoo. Which actually, speaking of that moment, that was actually a really cool night. So when you walked outside, this was in county jail, in Douglas County Jail. When you walked outside, it was like just pretty much like a round dome. And there's that like chicken wire going over the top. And all you could see was the stars, right? Or the sky. And that was like the most nature I had for about a year and a half. The rest was just concrete and steel. And then was the sky. And the one night it was raining. And it was the night I won extra free time by conning the guard. And so I stepped outside, and the guard was cool. He let me stand out there. And usually when it's raining and storming, they had to like lock down and they shut the day, because in case like electrocuted or something. So, but he just let me stand out there, dude, in the rain. And I just felt like the most free I've ever felt in my life. Well, I mean, especially in that consensus of incarceration, I just felt truly free mentally and spiritually, like just connected with nature, even when I hadn't seen nature in over a year besides a concrete wall, and I would just stand there, and I just stood there in the rain. It was super beautiful moment. You know what I mean?
Well, I'd never even thought about that. That they wouldn't let you even experience what it feels like to stand in the rain.
Oh yeah.
Because they want to. Again, I remember you saying it's not really about your safety, because you remember you mentioning that, like, you told me once, you said the prison system doesn't care to uplift you, it doesn't care to even downgrade you, to like hurt you. You are just a number.
Exactly.
And you're just in a
and they want to keep that money coming in.
Yeah.
So we got to keep you alive,
it's not about
enough just to where we can get paid for you.
Right. So if you not getting electrocuted out in the rain means just another number to keep alive, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. And then, so from Lansing, I don't know if you want to share more about that before you went to Larned.
Yeah. So it's actually funny. I'll just run a quick overview of Lansing. So as soon as I get there, and I'm like, I'm 22. Well, I was 23, almost 24 at the time, because I'd been in county jail for like a year and a half, almost just under 2 years. So I think I just recently had my birthday. It was around November time, December, and I get there and it's kind of cold. They give us our, like a jean jacket, and it's just a big coat where everyone cuts holes in it and stuffs contraband in the jacket. And I get there to the, so when you get there, they give you a blue jumpsuit, and automatically they like, so the prison, they know, like luckily I didn't have a sex case or anything like that, because those dudes who show up off the bus, it's over with. Like, they already know who you are, what you're in for. 8 out of 10 times, most of the time. Some people might get lucky and slide through, but it's rare. But they put you on a drop sheet, your name, and then your DOC number, where you're coming from. If you had checked in like PC, like protective custody, which is like meaning like you need protection from general population, the prison would put you on the drop sheet that you're coming from PC. So immediately you're targeted, like, oh, well, this dude's a check-in. Let me just pull up on him and make him pay or beat him up. And so these guys were coming straight off the bus, not even knowing that, 1,200 inmates or however many inmates that into the cell house you're going into, you're already labeled a check-in right out the gate. And so then people get on, every morning there was a joke like, oh, let's go check out the roster. And, on on shipping days when people are coming in on Tuesdays or Thursdays, getting shipped to the prisons, and then people getting moved from like RDU and stuff, they would go and write your name and numbers down, and they would get lists of names, and they would divide names. Like, all right, you take these 3 names, I'll take 5 names. And then you would go call your people and say, hey, check out this person on Casper. Check out this person on Casper. And those people would look up for you on the streets and tell you, oh, well, this guy's in for robbery. This guy's in for indecent liberties with a child. And so then they would just highlight the names of automatic victims. And as soon as they got off the bus, oh, you're Mr. Travis, so-and-so and so-and-so, number such a, oh, yeah, that's me. What you in here for? Oh, drugs. No, you're not. You're here for this. And immediately they've already become victimized, which then increases trauma and PTSD. But for some of those people, I mean, I don't want to go too much into that just because I don't want to be insensitive. But
sex case people
sex
case people,
dude,
they're always going to be treated the least. I mean,
and
anybody who watches Netflix or any show,
honestly,
they know that
not to be like in prison, people are always trying to everyone's trying to make themselves feel better about who they are, to make their crime seem more, admirable than the next man's crime, but even though they're creating their own victims. But rightfully so, bro. Some of those dudes, they deserve that. And so I'm not to be unempathetic or whatever, but it's true. Like, those dudes, I've seen some bad things happen to those guys. But when you hear what they did, you're like, it's hard because you're like, I feel bad for your human being getting stabbed or hurt, but knowing what you did, bro, you deserve that.
To a kid.
Oh, dude. I mean, I don't want, and yeah, it's such a rabbit hole. We can go down that rabbit hole, but we don't want to go down.
Let's not do it.
Yeah, let's not. But I'm just saying, yeah, you can go down that rabbit hole, but it's just the reality of, like, there's times where I remember one dude, he was getting hurt, and they were jumping him, and they were really hurting him, and you hear the guy crying out, and you feel empathetic because you're like, I didn't know the whole situation yet, you know, and
Right.
I just remember like, oh, God, help that guy. Hope he doesn't die, you know. And then fast forward the next day, I heard what he did, and I'm like, oh, well, fuck. Yeah, screw that guy. He deserved that, you know, just because it was such an atrocity of like his story of what he did to some children. And so when you hear that, you're like, oh, well, he had that coming. I mean, he survived and everything, but I mean, he just got beat up really bad. But, you know, when you hear that, you're like, oh, well, kind of my empathy kind of fades, because then you're like, oh, well, you know, but even I, myself, you know, like I try to take ownership of my own atrocities of life and the people I've hurt in my life. And you can take that into pertaining to my crime or my whole life. And you can even take that on a deeper level to people who use people. You know, you got guys around here just sleeping with anything that walks and just hurt women and have no disregard. They have a disregard for people's emotions. And humanity has that lack of empathy. And so you can take that same thing and paint a smorgasbord of pain, trauma, crime. You know, you go back 100 years, 1,000 years of all the raping and pillaging and the what mankind has done to each other, and you can see the atrocity of life. But then you can either choose to look at that and focus on that, or you can choose to let go and do the best you can do to show love, peace, acceptance, encouragement, and look at the beauty of life and the beauty of humanity and try to nurture that in spite of all the...
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyways, I can go on rabbit. I can go on rabbit.
But in the same, reality is,
yeah,
prison's its own culture.
Oh yeah.
And you can't be caught associating with those people.
Oh no.
100%.
No.
Like, you can feel empathy for them. You can feel sorry that they are going through their circumstances, but ultimately.
And one shoe does not fit all sizes, bro.
Right.
I know guys who I believe genuinely are innocent, and they were falsely accused of sexual crimes. That I know, you know, that you just, you know, some people, one shoe does not fit all. You know what I'm saying? There are guys I know who did 25 years for murder that didn't do 25 years for murder, but were discriminated against because of their race. And I know a dude who got out and he sued Kansas for over $1 million. I worked out with him, talked to him, got to know him, really genuinely good guy, and he won. He got over $1 million from the state of Kansas. And
because he was innocent.
Yes, because he was innocent. You know, I mean, you can even look him up. You know what I'm saying? I think it was like 2017, 2018 he was released. Did 23 years on a 25 to life sentence.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, until finally a nonprofit organization took up his case and proved his innocence. I know guys who scorned, you know, cheated on a girl, whatever, and then she screamed rape on him. And it's over with. He's going to prison. So, you know, that's 9 out of 10 times. And so, you know, it's hard to just put a label on, but and as you said, prison is its own bureaucracy, you know, what's the word? It has its own political statement, its own rules and own culture of way of being. And, you know, you get labeled things, and sometimes rightfully so, and sometimes not rightfully so. And so, but I think that as human beings, you can go on a bigger scale. Prison is just a smaller scale.
The rest of culture.
Of the rest of culture. You go into culture and you really look at humanity and, you know, society, and you can see the same similarities and the same ways that we as human beings judge people. You can go into church. You can go into the hippie community. You can go into anything. Human beings, I've learned this, corrupt the best and the worst of things. But we also have the ability to create beauty and change things for the better. So
going back to what you were saying with you getting off the bus, wearing the blue suit or whatever.
Yeah. So automatically we're already labeled. Sorry. Good job, brother. Keep me on point.
Sorry, I was trying to go back.
I rabbit trail. That's what I do. Okay, yeah. So you're already labeled, you know, like new guy because you're wearing a blue jumpsuit. Everyone's wearing gray T-shirts and jeans. So you got 1,200 people there roughly, and you see 10, 15 guys walking in blue jumpsuits. Well, guess what? They're the new guys, right? So we go to the clinic, and there's a couple of sex offender dudes that already on the whole way on the bus ride, they were already on their heads like, oh, they're going to do this to you. You're going to check in. You know, they're just already giving them a hard time. So we get into the clinic and they're doing our, all right. So we're not even, so at the time, Lansing had just had like a major riot, like, a couple weeks to a month before, and they had moved like 30, 40 people out of Lansing. It was in a really turbulent time where there was like 2 or 3 different gang wars going on. It was like a big stirring pot, and the state of Kansas was just stirring it and throwing people everywhere. So you're moving gangs from over here to there into other people's territories, and, people are skipping out on debts, and people are moving around. So, it was just a very chaotic time. And I think it was the year of 2017, or it might have been the end of 2016 and going into 2017. And so I get to, the prison, and we're in there for not even 5 minutes in the clinic. Door swings open. Certain gang members are screaming out, if you're from such and such set, we're banging, blah, 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 this said, Trey 5, whatever, just going on down the road of all these different gang stuff. About 2 to 3 different people would come in and start screaming out different sets. And then the whites showed up, and the ABs are like, hey, if you got a sex case, you're paying, blah, blah, blah. And so each one, I'm like, well, I'm not in that part of that set. Whew, that's good. And then the next guy would come like, if you're such set.
It's almost like the Greek fraternities at a college. We're this group. We're the Zeta
Phi, whatever, yeah. But except like these people are stabbing each other. So I'm like, so they're like coming out and they're like, C2 Cell House, that's what's up. And they burn out. I'm like, damn, man, C2 Cell House sounds like it's off the chain. You know what I mean? I'm like, woof, I hope I don't go to that one. That sounds rowdy, And then the ABs show up and like, if you're a sex offender, you're paying, blah, 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 blah. And then they burn out. And like, C2 Cell House, that's what's up. And they burn out. I'm like, oh, man.
AB, that's Aryan Brotherhood.
Yeah, yeah.
The other white supremacists.
Right, gang. one of the factions, yeah. And so I was like, oof, man, these people are serious about this life in C2 Cell House. So they walk around. The guard has this little clipboard. He goes, all right, you're going to B2, you're going to the medium, you're going to minimum. C2, he's like D Cell House, D2, B2, B1, C2, and I'm like, damn. I'm like,
just immediately sent you to
C2. Yeah, he sent me to C2. I'm like, well, that's figures.
I remember that being a recurring theme throughout all your years of prison. You would be like, hey, pray for me. I'm really hoping I don't end up in this situation next in this cell block.
Yeah,
and then you would call back and be like, so I got fucking put in this cell block.
No matter what.
I remember you being like, God has abandoned me. I have been put in all of the shittiest places in every single prison. County jail, prison.
But you know what's crazy, though? Because, bro, it's like those moments where, like, yeah, God's abandoned me. Because I'm like, oh. Like, it's like every time it's like, this is, like, you're, like, hoping for a good outcome. And then, like, fuck you, go over there. And I'm like, damn. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you're going to C2. Like, oh, you know what I mean? But it's crazy, though, because looking back, bro, even being in, like, some of the worst places and the worst times at the worst whatever, dude, I walked in favor, bro. Like, and that's why I attribute to God, because, once again, I'm in the worst of the worst places, and I'm, like, coasting, like a river, bro. Like, and just, like, still able to meditate, pray, work out, got into a couple, there was some times altercations and different things that were out of my control, and I had to handle 10 toes down and by the grace, and situations that I'm not proud of that, and reactions of how I've had to survive. But sometimes that's life. Life's not fair. You get thrown into the animal kingdom. You don't want to hurt a lion, but when it comes down to you and the lion, are you going to fight or are you going to get eaten? So there's moments where, you have to stand up for yourself and be somebody you in your heart don't want to be. But God helped me navigate that, man. And so, going back into the prison, dynamic. So he goes, you're going to C2. And I'm like, oh, fine. And some craziness happened. And when I first got there, all this craziness was going down and everything. And I learned, though, to navigate it. And then I wasn't even there for 24 hours till I seen my first stabbing, The next day at lunchtime, went to lunch and was sitting with my roommates because there was 5 of us to a cell. I had this much room between me and the ceiling because I was on the Cho bed. That's what they called it because it was the crappiest bed. It was the bed. It was like literally so far up that you had to like damn near do a pull up to get onto the ladder to crawl up. And then you're laying and the ceiling's like this far from your head. So if you sat down in the bed, you had to like lean down like an L shape between you and the ceiling to sit on your bed. And But all the beds were taken, so I was the newest guy, so of course I got the crap bed. It's to be expected. But, I was, and black mold, cockroaches, and I was like, man, it looked like Shawshank Redemption. Like I was like there, my heart just went, boom. I'm like, damn, like this is real. Like, oh dang, and but 2 years, 3 years later, it just looked like another home. It just looked like a cell block. I wasn't, you get desensitized and you're no longer scared of it. You're just another day in your existence of surviving, but also trying to find meaningful moments, and you're happy and you're living your life, just on a much crappier, smaller scale,
Right.
But yeah, so it's just like, it just becomes another day, But when you first get there, I don't care, unless you've been to multiple other prisons or you've had that, desensitized experience where you're no longer scared of it. When you get off that bus, I can't put on say everybody, but for me, no matter how tough I thought I was, or how well of a bigger dude, even when I was a chubby little bastard, I still was a big guy. I've never been considered small. And walking in there, I was like, yeah, dude, this is scary. Like, because it's not just you and one other man, it's you fighting 50 other men. And if you fight someone who's connected, then guess what? You're not just fighting him, you're fighting all his homies. And if you choose not to be a white supremacist, or you choose not to join gangs, well, then you are doing your time 10 toes down and alone. And that's how I chose to do my time. Luckily, Kansas is a state that you can... Depends, once again, every prison's different. Everything, politics come and shift and change.
Sure.
But when I got there, it was optional. Like, hey, do you want to run with us? If you do, then
jump. It'd be different if you went and did hard time in California.
Exactly. In California or like Arizona or different prisons where it's like, no, you're a white dude.
You're with the white supremacists.
You don't have a sex case. Either you're with us or you're against us. And you're checking in. And in some prisons where... my tattoos would have been considered white supremacy tattoos, and I would have had to ink them out, like either blink them out or they would threaten to cut them off. Shamrock tattoos or Celtic knots, Irish tattoos.
Which you got before prison because our family's Irish.
Yeah, exactly.
Scotch
Irish,
Irish,
we're Scots-Irish, so I was always really proud of our heritage and our family, and the stories and Irish culture just really resonated within me. And so I always, I had a bunch of Irish tattoos going in. So automatically, but as gangs, just like people who are Jewish and they get certain stars, like the Jewish stars and stuff. Well, there's certain gangs that have similar looking stars. So when they see those tattoos, they're pulling up like, hey, are you a GD? What are you this and that, third, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, what are you about? And then it's, then they have to explain themselves. Like, no, I'm just Jewish. This star is different from your star. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But it's automatically like a highlight, like tattoos are. So, but yeah, when I got in there, man, it started off super crazy. And then I've been in the max for like 4 months, 5 months. I was in C2 cell house, and it'd be normal. And we had nothing. Like, me and my cellies were broke. Like, I got off the bus, so I don't have nothing, and I'm level like 1, so I can spend only like $40, $50 a month on food and hygiene. I can't have no TVs. None of us had anything. All the other guys I lived with all got rolled from the minimum, so all of them were on like restriction. They can't buy food, so we're sitting there 5 guys deep, and we would just play chess. And I'm probably not proud of this, but occasionally we would smoke. Like deuce or stuff like that. And at the time I was like, well, my life's over. I'm going to die. Might as well get high. You know what I mean? Like, and my cellie, he sold it. And so, it was like, it was free. So it was just like, okay, whatever.
But then people started dying from it and you were like, okay,
never
mind.
Then years later, I've seen 3 people overdose and die on it. And I've seen.
That's K2.
Yes, right? K2. Yes. Synthetic marijuana, but it's not marijuana in any way, shape, or form. It is K2. And that's one of the biggest that's the biggest drug in prison. K2 and meth, which meth I don't touch. I've never touched. I don't want to mess with it. But Deuce was like, all right, well, I can smoke, every occasionally and, escape, because as I said, I'm not perfect. And then, boom, I'm like, I start seeing people overdose. And I start seeing dudes I know die. And I start seeing people I know have, like, asphyxiate and, have episodes. And I'm like, oh, well, this is not good and this is not weed. So I'm just going to stay sober and stop smoking, which I was blessed never to be a drug addict. So just stopped and I just never smoked it again. And I still seen people that would overdose on it and they would freak out and have episodes and vomit everywhere and almost die, near-death experience, having to be resuscitated. And then as soon as they come back from the medical ward, they go right back to smoking it. You're like, dude, smoke some weed. Like, don't smoke that stuff. Like, that stuff just about killed you. And they're like, oh, yeah, bro, I just smoked too much. And they're rolling a fat joint. And you're like, bro, do like a tap. Like, don't smoke a little tap, not a joint. Like, but, it's just one of those things. But anyways, bro, it's funny because people used to walk by our cells, and we were so broke. And I remember one time we were on lockdown, and we were locked down for like 2 weeks because dude got really stabbed up really bad. And so we couldn't get to the library. We couldn't go anywhere. We just, our meals were being brought to us for like 5 days before we can just head to chow and then back to our cells. They closed all yard times because there was a gang war stuff, issues going on at the time. And I remember my friend Stacker, he was sitting on his top bunk and he had a book, James Patterson book. And 4 of us, there's an old man. He slept down by the bars, and they had like a little table in the center of the cell, like 4 little stools. And 3 of us, me, my friend Josh, and Chavez, we would just sit there and put our elbows on the table, and we would get super stoned. And then Stacker would read to us, and he would just be like, and she walked into the room and saw him with the knife, and we're all like. Just like, like, this is the greatest source of entertainment ever. You know what I mean?
James Patterson.
Oh, yeah, dude. As people walk by, like, dude, you guys look like happier in here than everyone else walking around. We all have TVs and, whatever. We're like, yeah, bro, we're just high reading.
We got
books.
the TVs of our minds.
Yeah, bro. And then we were playing, like, chess, and then we started playing 4-board chess. So, like, that's what we call it because there was 4 of us. So, like, me and one other guy would be on a team, and then they would be on a team. And then we would just get super stuck. And then I would be trying to, like, my teammate would move, but we can't, like, coordinate. And I'll be like, why did he move there? Why did he move there? Why did he move there? And I'm like trying to figure it out. I'm like, no. And then I would get so stuck. And then someone would be like, dude, Caleb, it's been forever. Move. And I'm like, okay. And then I move. And then he would scream, no, why'd you do that? I'm like, I don't know. And we just had, like, funny moments like that. Fun. I could tell 1,000 stories of funny stories and good moments. It's not all bad. Life's not all bad, Sometimes,
at some point, you have to just be human.
Yeah, dude. You just have to find the joy in the existence that you're living, bro. So I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was doing 25 to life for murder, but genuinely a good dude, And obviously, he's gone through 25 years of pain for what he did or was a part of. He didn't he personally killed a person, but he was a part of it. And he looked at me one day. We were sitting, and it's very rude, and it's like an unwritten rule. You don't just look at another man that's your friend doing 25 to life and be like, hey bro, what's your dreams and aspirations for life? Right? You don't ask those kind of questions, and you don't automatically volunteer your own, because it's one of those things where it's like, oh man, when I get out, I'm gonna hook up with these girls, or I'm gonna hang out with these friends, or I'm gonna spend time with my family, I'm gonna go to Europe. You don't share your dreams or aspirations with somebody who may never
doing 25 to life.
They may never experience that. So it's kind of like, it's insensitive. So unless they ask you, if it's your friend and he asks you something, then it's okay to, like, kind of open up and share that. So one day we were sitting down at lunch, and it was just me and him at the table, and he looked at me across the table, and I could tell he was in some kind of mood, like, seriousness, sadness came across his countenance. And he looked at me and goes, hey, Caleb. I'm like, what's up, bro? And he's like, what are you going to do when you leave here? Like, what's your plans? What's your dreams when you first get out? And I thought about it, and of course, I had 7 years of dreams. So I had all kinds of dreams of, I'm going to work out. I'm going to bodybuild. I'm going to hang out with friends. I'm going to hang out with my family. I'm going to go on a plane. I'm going to,
eat Chipotle.
Eat Chipotle, dude. Like, yeah, just even down to the most insignificant small things that we take for granted. But I just looked at him and said, bro, I don't know, man. There's so much I hope and dream that I've never done before, and I'm going to do everything I can. I want to rock climb. I want to, go canoeing. I want to do all these different experiences and journeys and blah, blah, blah. And I said, but really, I would be content just go to the little lake and stand there and watch the sunrise and just accept that I'm free. And he looked at me and he just said, bro, And I looked at him, I said, what about you, bro? Like, if you could have any dream, if you would ever leave here.
He's doing 25 to life.
Yes. And I said, what about you, bro? Like, if you could do anything in your life, what would you do if you had a second chance at life? And he looked at me and just said, Caleb, I'll never go home. I'll never have a second chance. I said, but if I did, he said, I would live each day like it was my second chance. And I said, damn. And that really spoke to me, bro. And I was like, dang. You know what I mean? Because you're looking at this human being that you... But here's the crazy thing. I looked at him and I told him, I said, bro, you know, God's a God of miracles, bro. You never know what... You know, you never know. Because he believed in God. And I just looked at him and said, bro, it's never over till it's over. Until we shut our eyes, there's always hope for a better existence around the corner. And I was like, you never know what might happen, bro. And so he just said, and he looked at me and goes, bro, just do me a favor. I was like, what's up? And he goes, when you get out, go to that lake. And when you see that sunrise, think of me.
Yeah.
But here's the craziest thing. This is the blessing, bro. I found out, like, I don't know, 3 months ago, I was talking to a dude named CJ Hughes. He was the head of Brothers in Blue, this program that me and this other individual went to. And he got paroled, dude.
Really? Wow.
Yes, dude. He got paroled. His first parole. After doing 25 to life. He got paroled. He's got another 3-year backup on another sentence to do. And he'll be getting out like in his 40s. But he will walk one day as a free man. And he only has like 2.5, 3 more years to do with good time. And that man's going to walk home. He's going to. Wow. And so anytime I see a sunrise or I think of like going to the lake, there is not a moment where I have not thought of that moment. So, yeah, not to get emotional.
He was your age when he went in, right?
Probably. Yeah, he was actually a little bit younger. He was like 19, 20.
And, bro, just think about it. You were just inches away from
a life sentence.
Serving the same sentence.
Oh, dude, yeah.
The people who were hurt during your crime were people that, if they had died,
I would be doing a life sentence. Whether I hurt them or not, I was there. I was in the same situation as him. You know, I may have not been there, or
you were just there, but
because I was a part of it. And I mean, I'm not downplaying my role or nothing, but yeah.
But you didn't pull the trigger. You didn't hurt those people.
Right. So you know,
just were there.
Yeah, and I own that, and I have to. But I'm blessed and thankful, and not everybody has a second chance in life, and it's sad, dude, that not everybody gets that second chance. You know what I mean? And so you can really rake your brain, like, why me? Why do I get a second chance in life? Why not this person or that person? But it's just like, so there's an analogy I really love sharing with people. And when I was reading in Tibet Buddhism, they use this analogy of like this monkey in like the mountains, right? And the trappers would use this form of trapping, and they would build a glass box, right? In this Buddhist book that was talking to me about it. And this monk was using this analogy in this format of way of thinking. And he was talking about the trappers, right? This is a real thing. They would make a glass box, and they would make a symmetrical, really thin, like, you know, it's a thick glass box, and they would make a symmetrical hole, and so the monkey can slip his hand in, and they put a pile of white rice in the middle of it in this glass box. And so the monkey would put his hand in the box and then grab the rice. And then the monkey would sit there for 8 to 12 hours trying to pull out, and he cannot get his wrist out, down to the point of bloodying his wrists. And the monkey will stay there all night until the trappers come the next morning and trap the monkey and poach it. The construct is, what he was saying is, little did the monkey know, if he lets go of the rice, he can slip out the same way he got in. Mm. But the monkey will hold on to the rice. And sometimes we as human beings, we hold on to the construct of, why am I lucky? Why do I get a second chance? Why did I get abused? Why did I get traumatized? Why didn't I have a good existence? Why didn't I have a good family? Why didn't I have this? Why didn't she love me back the way I loved her? Why not? You know, and we hold on to the construct of the rice, of whatever the rice can be, and it can be anything and everything. But sometimes, like in the Buddhist, religion, it says, let go. Let go. And Jesus even talks about it. He goes, in order to receive, you must let go. Mm-hmm. Bear your cross. Take up your cross and follow me. Let go of the construct, you know what I'm saying, of whatever it is that's holding, that whatever that rice is that you're holding. And sometimes it just takes conscious choices every day to just grain by grain. It's not just a one-time all. I'm over my trauma. I'm over my pain. I'm over my fear. I'm over my anxiety. But it's the mind over matter. Letting go one grain of rice at a time till eventually one day you will be able to slip out of the box.
Because one thing's guaranteed for every one of us is we will suffer.
Oh, yeah.
Humanity and...
Absolutely. Life is suffering.
Life. And it's not easy for all of us. Some of us have to carry our suffering with us up until the very last minute. And at the end of the day, like you said, when we can always hope and look forward to a better day as long as until our eyes shut, right? Until our eyes shut, we can always look forward to a better existence for tomorrow. But boy, if we could just learn to let go of some of that
rice.
Rice.
Let go of the rice, bro.
Just let go of some of that stuff, but I know like these years, dude, are gonna like you've only been out for 5 months and you've grown and you've experienced so much life since then. You've lived whole lifetimes. You've seen so many sunrises out of lakes.
Oh
since then.
Bro. I've been nonstop going.
But it's not gonna overwrite 7 years of the trauma and the shit you saw in prison. And every day is going to be a conscious decision. Like you said, it's not just the gym or the things that you have to tell yourself like, oh, just it was worse then. It's going to be better, deal with it. That's not always
the best approach.
That's not the best approach for everything in life. Right. Like at some point there will be moments where you're not comparing life's moments now to prison life.
Oh, dude, like even
it's understandable that it's happening right now because
absolutely
it's so soon that you've been out.
I mean, even just like last week, I had a moment with a friend and my insecurities seeped out. It's just like anything in life, like insecurities. Sometimes things that you're not even aware that are there, and you can walk around like you're the most confident, badass, got it all together, intellectually inclined, financially established individual in this world, but eventually your fears, anxieties, and insecurities and traumas are going to seep out at one point in time or another. And that's why, but that's okay, bro. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to not have it together.
It's human.
Yeah, it's human, bro. It's okay in our imperfections to gather up our majestic blessings that are bestowed upon us throughout our lifetime. And so, just sometimes letting go. And in order to let go, you must, in order to receive, you must let go. And I think also it's okay to fall short and then just to, okay, my bad. I didn't mean to seep out over here. Let me see why that's coming out right now.
Right.
And then you slowly deal with those things. And I got a lifetime. I mean, you name it. I've seen some crazy stuff, bro. Like those times where I'm just, like you and me are hanging out. There's moments where we go to the river and we're kicking with a bunch of hippies and we're just like living life and we're just loving life. And then there's moments where I just like, oh man, like 5 months ago, I'm looking at this tree and it's the most magnificent, beautiful, translucent tree of my life. And then I'm like, oh wow, oh yeah, I forgot. I went almost a year and a half, 2 years without even seeing a tree.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like let alone standing beneath it, But yeah, there's those moments where those things seep out. But yeah.
And while you've gone through a whole life whole chapter of your life of extreme circumstances and environment, the reality is every person who ignores themselves and just keeps repeating harm to the next person. Like if there's anything that prison's a testament to is that, like you were saying earlier, unless you're willing to look in the mirror and examine yourself,
exactly,
you'll repeat that harm and that hurt.
Absolutely.
You'll live out those actions, and so whatever faith construct helps you disrupt that cycle.
Yeah.
And for you, it was God. It was your Christian faith that helped you.
And I mean, even I don't even like sometimes the term Christian, because when I've studied religion and the Christian religion church, I actually found something really interesting. The first believers that followed Jesus' teachings and believed in God, they called themselves of the way.
The way, yeah.
Yeah, man. They didn't even call themselves Christians. The Christian term came after Constantinople or whatever created the Catholic Church. You know what I mean? Or is it Constantinople? Or is it
Constantine.
Constantine, that's the one. Yeah, yeah.
Constantinople.
Oh, Constantinople. One of those intellectual.
No, but yeah, right. It was the people. It was actually
beings.
not even the enemies of Christians, but basically they're not the rivals, but just
they're
people outside of it who were just like, you're little Christ. It was like a slander.
It was a slander. It was a demeaning term, at the time until it was adopted, and it was used as the definition of what it means to follow God or whatever. And once again, like, dude, I don't try to even
follow the way.
Yeah, I'm of the way, man. The way, like, He is the way, the truth, and life, and and no man will enter the kingdom but through Him. And I don't know, like, I'm not perfect. I don't know if there's a hell, if there's a heaven. I don't know. So here's one quick poem I like to share. It's called "The Dog," right? Mm-hmm. And it says, one day, one flea looked at the other flea and said, "Do you believe in the dog?" Then one day, one Christian asked a Buddhist, "Do you believe in God?" We think we humans understand life's many mysteries and awes. But like those fleas, we really don't know or understand anything at all. We think through science, religion, and human intelligence we have it all figured out. Some people will say, this is what life is all about. While others will say, no, this is what it's about. But for me, I have faith and believe. And in the end, isn't that all I need? I'm sure those fleas were thinking many of the same things until the dog's owner gave it its monthly dose of Frontline. You know what I mean, bro? Like, sometimes, like,
so when our sun burns up, or when the earth explodes, or something,
bro, it's over with. Bro.
We're like, do you believe in the dog? Well, when that Frontline comes, we'll all be.
We're all pretty much to find out. You know what I mean? Like,
we're fleas, just
chemical.
Oh God, here comes
COVID. Here comes COVID.
Right.
Yeah, bro. Like, so, and the whole construct is like, I don't know, but I have faith, and I don't need to know. Because it's not up to me to know. I'm not a creator. I did not create this galaxy. I did not create me. And if I'm wrong and there is no God and there is cosmic insignificance and all there is darkness out there, well, guess what? It's not going to mean a whole lot to me because I'll be in the middle of darkness. If it's real and there is God and there is Jesus and all that, if that is real, I guess I will know when I meet Him and He says, hey, like,
a good and faithful servant.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I know you on a first name basis, bro. Like, and so to me, and if I'm wrong and the Buddhists are right and it's all about reincarnation, then I guess I'm coming back as a tadpole. Because when I was going to
say as a flea on a dog's back.
Yeah, dude. Like, who knows? I mean, I guess in that construct, who knows? You know what I'm saying? If it's the Hare Krishna way and it's the Hinduism way, well, I guess there's 1,000 heavens. And I guess maybe I worked enough in this world to get up to at least maybe one heaven. You know what I mean? And then I'll come back down to this earth that they consider as the hell. And I'll go back into another lifespan of energy to try to work my way up to 1,000 heavens until eventually I reincarnate into Hare Krishna. So I'm not saying that's what I believe, but I'm saying, can I genuinely...
It's all a mystery.
Yeah, it's all a mystery, man. Can I genuinely sit here and say, no, there's no, I mean, hey... Who knows? But I have faith and believe, and that's all I need for me. So that's just where I kind of...
At the very least, we take the time to reflect on our beliefs.
Yeah,
like
man.
You said, our actions have consequences, and yours led to 7 years in prison. And yet I'm excited and happy to have you back home.
Yeah,
and that you didn't die from COVID.
Which I had twice.
You didn't die from stabbings or whatever could have happened. I'm thankful for the universe where we get to exist together as brothers here and now.
Absolutely.
And explore our faiths together.
Absolutely, bro.
And share our love for people and make amends and heal from things we've caused, pain we've caused other people, pain we've caused ourselves. And I think that's all we can do as humans is recognize that we will all be the victim, the villain,
victimizer,
and we'll play all those roles at some point in our lives, and the victim, the villain, and the hero, know, and I'm happy to have you here, brother, and thanks for being with me.
Yeah,
so
bro. Love you, man.
Love you too, bro. Everyone. Thanks for being here. Join me, Caleb Chrisman, for the Pray for Micah podcast. Till next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me for the Pray for Micah podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review, and check out my YouTube channel and follow me on social media. Pray for Micah Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We'll see you next time.
You are now re-entering the normal world.